biggest challenge you run into? Is that more on a regulatory level, on an implementation level, scaling level? What is the biggest challenge to make these solutions that you all work on really shine and really land in the hands of the end user? Anybody dares to answer that? What is the biggest challenge? That is like a hurdle. Yeah.
For us, it is firstly integration successfully. Make sure that it can go into a core process of the company that it needs to work with. But we've seen that that isn't enough. You need a very good product owner within the company, one that gets excited from this type of solutions, because those are the ones that will solve the internal integration problems. So for us it was the biggest challenge to find these people inside of the organization.
Yeah, they don't walk around with their hand raised like, hey, you have to talk to me.
Well, sometimes they do,
Sometimes.
but also those are quite challenging, because usually the product owners or the enthusiast is not the budget holder, right? So if he's enthusiastic, you're putting in a lot of time, a lot of work to show what it can do, but then he has to sell it internally still. So both ways have their challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, so implementation is a challenge. Krista?
Yeah, I can totally agree with that one. We've also had a project like this, and we had the great product owner, but then, getting it after the first or the second year of the pilot phase, it's something else, because then you've got the budget holder, and then you've got like the whole new nurses coming in and going out that you have to train again. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and is it very clear why we talk about budget, and one is working on the product, the other one is managing time and money, but you also have like the perspective and the focus of the company that you're working for. Do you see that is maybe something that is also part of that alignment? They are not all looking in the right or same direction. Maybe David.
Yeah, I think like in healthcare at least, like the perspective is I think very different. So I've been like what I said, since I was 18 I worked in nursing homes, so I've seen it from the other side. And like already for us, like the commercial side of the healthcare side, when I worked in the company, it was a bit like, oh, let's keep them a bit outside, and what do they want? And so I think understanding for this care organization to understand, like we have also people we need to pay for the bills, and like they need to pay the rent. So it's like sometimes, like for example, now the sales cycle in healthcare is very long, and especially now for the summer, for example, 3 weeks ago, it was like, let's talk about it in September. Even though they kind of made the decision to work with us. So I think that's very challenging. You don't have the same perspective for them. It's like, oh, let's carry it over the holidays. But we need to keep on giving the support and the adoption. So yeah, that's very challenging for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, if I may add, within the healthcare system, or at least in the Netherlands, it's a public system. So there's a lot of different parties that need to be on board, right? So you have the enthusiastic people, on the ground, like in the ward, and they're like, okay, we need to do something, right? And then you've got this team of implementation, which can be, academic research involved, which can be all these implementation processes, and then you can even have like the report. Yes, it works, we're all happy, okay? But then you need to implement it, and then, as I said, it needs to continue. But within this time frame, maybe the first budget holder, she left, right? And so there's a new OR manager. The other one also left. So every time there is all these people that all need to be okay, and when there's one of them going out, then you have to do it again, right? So that's a very big challenge within the healthcare system.
Yeah.
In comparison to a company, right? Because if it's just, or in comparison to hard figures. So also depending on what you're doing, you're working on empathy, right? I'm working on communication. In hospitals, they want it to be, okay, so does the patient get out of the ward one day earlier, because then we get more money, or does the patient need less medication because then we get more money, right? So depending on what you choose, we've chosen a quite difficult business in that case, because it's more about the holistic approach, the communication, the well-being of the patient and the healthcare providers.
Yeah. So it's also about where are you adding value in that entire chain, and who needs to be there and in command of that specific part. Maybe some burning questions from the audience to give you a chance to ask something in between. If not, think about it. Maybe a last one. So what I find interesting, we're working hard on all these different solutions. But also, when we look back 20 years, when we were creating websites and we needed all these complex tools to create them, you know where I'm going to, is that nowadays it is so much simpler to create the content that you want. Terminology like vibe coding, being able to quickly, with an AI, create an app. If it's good or not, that's something for now not to discuss, but the trend is there. To empower people with, and I think for Jan's verhaal, story, is sort of also a premise for that you can use pre-made digital objects that are easy to implement and quick to, well, also put in the training situation. Is that something that you are also looking at, like, hey, how can we empower our clients to do it themselves as much as possible in the way that they want to do it, with tools that make it simple to do? And I think that Jan is already working on it, so you can answer as well, but maybe any of you, maybe Monique.
To be honest, Delsis is quite a mature company, so I think what we would like to empower our staff with is sort of like training tools to help like expedite their research goals, because EMG, even though it's quite simple to use, if you get junk data in, and then everything is just
Junk in, junk out.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is sort of offer education, I suppose, so that our researchers are well informed, and we do our best to ensure, because I think sometimes with mature companies you can get quite inflexible, and the product doesn't shape the market, it's the market that shapes the product. So it's very important to really lean into researchers to find out what is it that they really need and how adaptable we can make the product to service their needs. So that's something that helps with us forecasting, so we keep current, and then our technology, we're preempting what the market needs. So EMG VR is quite new, but I'm preempting what the market will need, because there's a need for biosignals, and there's a need to understand what the person is experiencing without putting them in a stressful environment.
Yeah, so what you're saying is the complexity of EMG nowadays still needs more work to get it into a simpler form later on, what we're working towards.
I think it's more just making people aware of what the possibilities are, and offering them education in terms of how they can use it and how it can be adapted to their research, for them to get the outcome measures that aligns with what they want, I would say.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jan, you want to add something to it, and as a closing of this session?
Well, it's a very important topic that you're bringing on that is quite impossible to answer in a minute.
Try.
So I hear a lot of concerns, right, from the market that AI will indeed replace my work, for example. And I remember very well, and I think it was in 2020 that I was giving a keynote on Immersive Tech Week about reality capturing. And I don't have to do that anymore, because now everyone with a simple 360 camera with Gaussian splatting is very perfectly able to create their own environments, right? I'm still here. I don't think companies want to do everything themselves, right? They hire people to clean their coffee machine, right? Their toilets or whatever. Now, some will do themselves, and the bottom line is that I think we have to embrace this AI revolution with it, because I think it solves more challenges for us than that it brings. Because for a lot of companies, for a big part of the market, the initial investment is the biggest hurdle. That's why projects won't go, right? And AI will actually make it possible to also get those clients. And I think the AI revolution is also a big part of the new internet, the spatial internet. And a lot of that will happen through XR solutions, hardware, software, etc. And the people that are in this market, in the XR market, those are the only ones who understand how to create solutions for this new internet. Because we understand the human factor of XR solutions, how to do it, how to integrate it, how to get people love it. So this whole AI stuff brings us way more opportunities than challenges.
From humans to AI, I think it's a nice full circle. Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Krista. Thank you, David. And thank you for being present here. A last round of applause for our members. Thank you. And get something cold to drink because it's really hot here. Thank you so much.